Okay, so guys, there's so many new faces in this room. I'm super excited. For those of you who do not know me officially, my name is Lizy Hoeffer. I'm a loan officer with Guild Mortgage. I've been in the industry now for about 16 years this October. And why I'm teaching this class. So last year I took a strategy class on metrics and just got really granular with my data. So this is going to be a straight business class, right? But I'm going to tell you everything that I have implemented literally in the last year and why I'm credible to teach this class, okay? So last year my team was top performing. We were third in Arizona in terms of units and volume. We closed 634 transactions, okay? So I can tell you we knew how to close loans then, okay? After taking this strategy class, I will tell you that the market has been down 30% for lenders, right? You felt the market shift downward, right? There was 1,000 less transactions between August and September, and we have felt the competitiveness, right? So in this down market, we actually just passed 649 transactions yesterday, okay? So we are on pace for an 800 unit year in a down market where there's ultra competitive. I mean, so I will tell you that if you focus on the metrics that I'm going to teach you today, you can have your best year every year and be tactful and be strategic, and you won't have to work a million hours, okay? So, are you excited?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're really excited? Okay, good. So, first things first, guys. Do you have an extra handout? She does? Oh, awesome. Cool. Does everyone have a handout? I guess we should start there. Yeah? You need another one down there? Cool. All right. So, first things first, guys, I just want to show of hands. How many of you guys have done a business plan in the past? Raise your hand. Okay. So, a lot of you. Okay. And if your business plan kind of looked like this, just cross.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're good. We're good. Okay, so if your business plan was just like listed out how much income you were going to make, you threw a guess at how much units you wanted, and we set some goals for like once you did it, you were going to buy XYZ. How many of you, that's what your business plans have looked like? Be honest. Okay. Now, if you had actual metrics, like you calculated your average sales price, and you knew how many buyers and sellers you had, and you knew at least your pillars of business, right? If that was the next step, how many of your business plans look like that? Show hands. Okay. All right, so most people actually stop there. They know how much income they want to make. They know their average sales price, their average commission. They know around average where they get their business from. Okay, but then they stop there. Okay, and that's really, really helpful when it comes to like just figuring out your wants and needs. But that's really a goal list. Okay, so that you've identified your goals, which is the first half of business planning. Okay. Now, if you've done business planning with me in the past, we've gotten a lot more technical. We figured out your tax rate, your fallout rates. I've had you identify your top lead sources, your top promoters, and then we've honed down on areas that you were having traction in, and then we've really hit that. And that's actually how I've done business planning for the last 6 years of my business, and I have had great success. So if you've made it to that step, you're great. And I will tell you this, I've also lived by the model, more leads solves all problems. I still believe that today, okay? If you've got a ton of leads, it will solve all of your problems, okay? So if you don't know that, write that down, okay? And when things get tough, you're like, I just gotta get more leads, okay? Now, what we're talking about today, though, is like gathering data and then really figuring out how you're gonna do a budget, like what you actually can spend, right? So the very first metric that we're gonna talk about today, guys, is how to be profitable. Okay, so you're going to want to turn to page 2, and we're going to really talk about, well actually, right before we do that, right, so a couple things you need to know for a business plan, right, is, do all of you guys have a target demographic? You all have target? Okay, so a target demographic, guys, is not the area that you want to do business in. Okay, so if you are doing business today and you've done 60 transactions and all of them have been first-time home buyers buying condos in Scottsdale, that is your demographic. Okay, now I meet with lots of different business owners, different real estate agents, and their number one thing to me is always like, I want to increase my purchase price. Okay, So if you want to increase your sales price, guys, that's a retention issue more than it is like changing your demographics, okay? So you have to know where you're having traction, right? And then you've got to double down on it, right? It's not change it, it's double down on it and then make slight increments to attract the new business that you want to do, right? But you got to know your target demographic, and then you also have to know like what products you're offering them, okay? And here's what your products cannot be, okay? Great customer service, okay? And you work hard, okay? Because what person is going to say that they have shitty customer service and they are lazy? Okay, you cannot sell against something that does not have an opposite. And you cannot sell something that is not quantifiable. Okay, so how do you quantify business? Okay, so in loans, right, I sell loans. Okay, so I could sell a conventional loan, an FHA loan, blah, 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 right? Those are all feature statements. So you guys got to know that in business, your features are true statements about your business. But benefits are things that people can walk away with and say, okay, that person can close the loan in 26 days. Right? They have a down payment assistance program that gives $1,500 and a $2,000 gift card. Right? You see how they can walk away and go, they have actual numbers? So for you guys, when you target your demographics, right? So I did business planning with someone the other day who said, I sell homes all throughout the valley. Right? Which you're all guilty of. Everyone would be willing to sell a house all throughout the valley. Okay? Just because you're willing to do it does not mean it's your target demographic also. Okay? So they said, well, I sell homes everywhere. I don't discriminate, purchases, listings, second homes, blah, blah, blah. He actually was a guy who, it was $300,000 price point condos in Scottsdale, and they were all first-time home buyers. Okay? And 90% of them were men in their 30s. Is that not a demographic? Okay? And when we looked at 85251, I'm like, dude, you're like the condo guy. Right? I'm like, you need to be saying, hey, I am like top in my field selling $300,000 condos to bachelors in 85251. Right? Like I know more about condos in Scottsdale than anybody else. Right? That's a thing that you can say, that you can promote out there, that people can walk away and they go, he's the condo guy. Right? Like that's what you have to get down to. Now, here's the thing about a target demographic, and you want to write this down. Okay, you do not want to be so niche that if you got every single person in that demographic, it wouldn't make your best year ever. Okay? Now, if that one agent sold every single $300,000 condo in Scottsdale, he would not only have his best year, he'd have his next best 5 years, probably next best career. Right? There's enough sales in that small demographic, even though he's being super niche, right, that he could have his best year ever. Okay? So for me, I target first-time homebuyers, right? That's my niche in Phoenix, typically $200,000 price point. That's what I go after, right? Are there a lot of first-time homebuyers and $200,000 price point in Phoenix? Yes. There's at least 649 of them, right? Now, if I did every first-time homebuyer in Phoenix for $200,000, I would have more business than I could handle, right? So it's specific enough, and it does not mean that I turn away second home buyers, investors. It doesn't mean any of that stuff. It just means that when I spend my marketing dollars, I'm targeting the people I'm having the most traction with. And I may lose a couple refis, I may lose a couple things, but I will also tell you that because I have such strong promoters in my business, they'll call me first. They'll be like, do you do refis? And I'll be like, yes, of course I do refis. Do you help people with investment properties? Of course I do, right? So I just know that people won't forget you for these things. It just won't be where you spend your money. Okay, so does everyone understand that? Okay, so in order to gather this data, okay, and if you want this, right, if you sign up for the end of this class, we'll send you this spreadsheet out. But in order to collect this, you're going to collect every single sale that you have had for the last 12 months minimum, okay? If you have never sold a home, guys, just wait for me after class and I'll give you some metrics. But 12 months minimum, we'd like to see a 36 month, okay? Because over 3 years, we can actually really gather like the health of your business. Is it staying the same? Is it increasing? Is the market the same, right? Where you had traction before, right? All that stuff. So we want to collect it, and what we're going to look for is purchase versus listing. So I want to know if it's a purchase column, if it's a listing column, your average commission. I want to know the referral source. So this is going to be like Zillow, Boomtown, Facebook. And if you put a database lead, guys, I want it to be specific, okay? So everybody categorizes things that were not paid marketing in terms of your database. But database is multiple pillars, right? It's your past clients, it's your friends and family, it's business contacts that you network with, it's the PTA group, it's the all this stuff that you go, that's not, just because you know them and you didn't pay for their business doesn't mean that it couldn't be a pillar on its own. Okay, so be specific on where you got it. Then, the other thing is, was there a person that was attributing that referral, right? So like I have people who are like rave promoters, and we're going to talk about a promoter score later, but that they'll give me a bunch of referrals. I want to know who those people are, those influencers are in my database, and I just don't want to categorize it. I want at least 25 influencers in my business plan at all times. You should write that down. And then the very last thing you need to track, guys, is the activity that generated the lead. Okay? Now, there's going to be a ton of activities. If you're one person that has a 33 touch and you're calling and you're prospecting and all that stuff, it's a combination of all of them. But the thing that got the lead is the activity I want you to track. So if you've been dripping on them for 33 months and you saw them at an event and you got to talking about a referral at that event, what do you write down? The event, okay? Right? The 33 touch probably helped get them to the event, but the event is what converted it, and it was a face-to-face activity. The reason I want you to do this is because we never know where we are the best at, okay? So in lending, they tell you to pick up the phone and dial for dollars. I think it's the same in real estate, okay? I did that for a really long time, and I didn't convert very well. Turns out I have a lot of phone reluctance, and I'm a little bit weird at the very beginning, which is when people hang up. Okay, so, and it's the truth, right? If you don't nail that intro, it's just downhill. And if you've all been on a weird prospecting call, this is my life. So I discovered that when I started doing this, I had this thing called a milk route. So I would go to one office, have an appointment, and then I would ask them to introduce me to everybody else in that business. And I do the same thing for my clients. I would go drop off their housewarming gift at their office, and then I'd be like, hey, do you think anyone else is interested in buying a home? And they're like, you know what, kind of, she mentioned it in the locker room. I'm like, could you take me around? Would it be like really weird if you like took me around and introduced me to people? And so that was it. And I realized that my highest conversion activity was this milk route. So still to this day, I have a milk route, typically on Wednesdays, that I go and I visit a bunch of offices, do the same thing, have people introduce me to people, and now I also teach classes so that I could engage with people more face-to-face. Okay, so I'm leveraging my strength. And guys, I still make phone calls, but it's like the smallest thing. Like if I had 10 hours a week to prospect, it would only be face-to-faces. Okay, and that's how you have to figure out. So that's what I want that spreadsheet to look like. I want you to gather all of that data. Okay? All right, so now that you have like all the basic data, okay, we're going to figure out, I want to go to this page where it's blue right here, and it talks about profitability. Because I want us to lead profitable businesses. If your business is not making more money year over year, you're doing all the wrong things. Okay, I will tell you that I work with a bunch of top producers who literally net less income than single agents. Okay, but the thing is they're not doing it for the money, they're doing it for the accolades, right? And so you have to decide what's more important for you, your name and lights or money, okay? I've always been a money person, which is why most people have never heard of me. But that's why we're in business, right? We're not charities, okay? We're not just buying leads to give other people, right? We are business owners. And if your business isn't increasing in profits or doesn't always make a profit, write that down. If you have a month where you did not make any money, you are out of business. That is not a good way to run a business. You have to always make a profit, okay? So once I got that down, eventually, guys, people will know who you are if that is important to you, okay? Right, so a couple of things that you need to know, right? So the first thing is sales revenue. Do all of you guys have an idea of what that is? That's the easy one. Okay, so sales revenue is literally just the total of all of your commissions before anything is subtracted, okay? So this is the gross commission. Okay, so it's before your team split, it's before your company fees, it's before anything, right? So that is your sales revenue. That number is super important because it tells you how much money the business actually took in. Okay. The next thing, guys, the only way to improve your sales revenue literally is through more leads, more prospecting, more deals. Okay, that's the only way that you can impact sales revenue. You can also increase your purchase price. That is a real thing, but I will tell you that that's a lot easier said than done. Okay, so people have big dreams of, oh, I'm now going to sell $300,000 houses. And it's like, that is awesome. I hope you do it. You might be the one outlier that really knocks it out of the ballpark, but I tell you it's not realistic, and we don't plan for that. Businesses don't just say, I've sold to this demographic every single year for the last 30 years, but now I'm going to do this one, so you know what I mean? Right? They do marketing campaigns and they test what works. Okay? So I would not necessarily recommend that as a strategy. I didn't even include that in here, but it is technically, mathematically, if you sold more expensive homes, you could do it. The other way to do this, and this is actually a way to increase your sales revenue, is you can start charging higher commissions. There are many agents, even in a down market where there's commission compression, that are still charging VIP broker agreements and that do 7% listings. Okay? It all matters. Like, people will buy what they perceive as value. So if you have a strong value proposition, right, then you can charge whatever you want. Okay? But if we're just going to be basic, right, and today we're just going to, it's more leads, more prospecting, more activities. Okay? That's the easiest way to do it. Okay? Awesome. So now that we know how to increase revenue, the next thing that you guys need to know about, and these are the two things that I think are always missed. Okay? So it's your net profit margin. Right, so this is what you actually took home after all of your marketing, after all your company fees, after every dollar spent in your business. So this is what you took home, okay? This is the thing that should matter the most to you, okay? The most, okay? Now, how you improve this, right? Again, you could close more deals, okay? But typically if you close more deals, you're spending more money in marketing, okay? So typically what I like to tell people here is this is the area where you have to look at all of your expenses and then get really efficient. Okay? So the reason why a lot of those top teams or those top agents aren't as profitable as you would think is because they have really high overheads. Right? They pay really big commission splits, and then the marketing is like a good profitability for a real estate agent is what, in the 30s, am I correct? Steve Castle, who knows this from Keller Williams?
The average is 36.
Average is 36. What's really good?
Really good?
Really good, like the best.
Oh, over $1 million per year.
$1 million per year, but what in percentage in profitability?
40 would be
Like 40 would be the best, right? 40% profitability is the best for these big teams because they have big overhead. Well, what costs money? Internet leads cost a lot of money. Staffing costs a lot of money, right? Like, these things cost a lot of money, and I will tell you that it's very rare that I meet with a business owner, and I'm being just candid here, right? In my industry too, it's rare that I meet with a business owner that actually knows where they're having traction, right? They like spend thousands of dollars on, let's say, Zillow. They've only closed 3 Zillow leads, but the one before they wanted to cancel was $700,000, so now they're sold for another year, okay? Even though it breaks even, okay? So that's one you really have to concentrate on. And the next one, guys, this is the one that actually will tell you what you need to do. It's your gross margin. Okay? So a gross margin is the revenue minus your marketing expenses. Okay? This is the one where I like had a gigantic aha moment. I would like brought in my revenue, then I put in all my partnerships, all of my marketing, and then the rest of those funds, guys, that number, the gross margin, is what you have left to pay yourself and run your business. I was like, no wonder I'm making no money, right? Because in order to service the business, I have really big overhead. It was just insane to me, and I was like, okay, this is what's got to change, right? So that number there is what sets the precedence for all the rest of the budgeting. So let's say you have an influx of leads, because I've just literally told you more leads will solve all your problems, but now you can't hire the staff to service them. Right? Or it's this nasty ball of like weirdness. So we have to figure out, like, you want to make a certain amount of money, okay? You're figuring out what you spent in marketing that you're having traction with, okay? Right, we're going to double down, work on those efficiencies, make them better, and we're going to dump everything else that it breaks even or loses money. Every loss leader. Okay. We'll even dump things, guys, that had smaller traction than the others. Okay, so maybe you didn't break even, it was a small profit, but we didn't see as much profit as these other twos, we're still dumping it. Okay, even though it's really hard. Okay, so these are things that are really important. I always lead with profitability because that's why we're here, right? Everyone, essentially you want to make more money. This class should be like how to make the most money in a year, right? Okay, so how do you improve gross margins, guys? You just have to figure out exactly what I said. Target the marketing only that works, and then figure out how you can pay less for it, okay? So that might mean adding a partner. It might mean calling and negotiating a better deal. It might mean looking at other platforms, right? So like Boomtown is a platform that costs $1,500 just to start. Real Geeks is like $500. Okay, they're not owned by the same company, but Real Geeks is owned by the same company that owns Commissions Inc., YLobo, a variety of different lead generating sites, right? So you can look at all of the different platforms and maybe you reduce costs there. Maybe you get a different pay-per-click manager. Okay, maybe you double down on sphere of influence, right? So if you're somebody who gets a lot of business through their database, maybe you do a birthday program. Maybe you spend some money on Facebook targeting the same people in your database and then clone the audience, right? Like we're figuring out where you're having the most traction and figuring out how to reduce the marketing costs. Okay, so that's what you do there. Okay, so does everyone understand those three key principles about profitability? Okay. Your P&L, how many of you guys do a P&L once a month? Be honest. Okay, so 4 of us, okay? It's never fun. Literally, it's Sammy's least favorite day that she works for me every month. But we go through it every single month because I don't want to mess up on this piece, okay? And it's easy to mess up on it. It's so easy to pay money. It's like, you're like, especially if you're charging on a credit card, you're like, oh yeah, I got $500, done. And then all of a sudden you have a $45,000 marketing bill and you're like, I only spent $500, 500 times. Right? Okay, cool. All right, so do a profit and loss every single month, okay? And when you do not hit these margins, you have to make adjustments. This is like where it gets hard. You have to make an adjustment. If you were not profitable 1 month, you're cutting the expenses. Otherwise, you're not going to stay in business. Okay? All right.
Do you have like any programs or apps that are geared more towards like our industry that can help?
With the profit and loss? Totally. Sammy, will you add that to the thing? Just do the profit and loss. I have a budget sheet for agents that just basically shows you what you're spending and like what you're targeting and get it through the core and you just plug it in.
That's like way simpler, but if you want to get super granular, there's this thing called CTE, and you can do, like that thing will get insanely granular. There's how many contacts you make per day, it runs your P&L, it'll do.
It's CTE. CTE. Do you know where to find it? If you Google it, I'm sure you could, but
CTE.biz.
CTE.biz. Guys, and also, just huge plug, so Steve Castle, the celebrity in my back row, is teaching the class after this on prospecting. Wealth of knowledge over there. Just saying, if you want to hang out. Okay, so CTE.biz. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay. So guys, so after we figure out profitability, we're now going to start analyzing our sales growth. Okay? This stuff is super important. This is why I wanted you to collect 3 years worth of data, because we want to find out if our businesses are growing or not. Okay? Now, a couple things. If your business is declined, you're going out of business. This is really harsh, but it's the actual truth. Okay? So if your business went down from the year before, you're going out of business. If your business stayed the exact same, you're also going out of business. Okay? These are the actual facts. If we're not constantly growing and getting better, it's only a matter of time before it's going like this, you know? So if that is your case, that's fine. There's lots of companies that have comebacks, right? We just have to then start doing more activities. Okay, so here's how you calculate your sales growth. Okay, so you collect all of the data that you had from the year before, and you compare it to this year. And what I would do, and what I always do, is I compare month to month. So I'm comparing October of this year with where I was at to October of last year. Does that make sense? Okay, so this is twofold, right? So I'm checking my year-to-date number from January to October of 2018 to January of 2017 to October of 2017. I am also comparing just the number in October to the number in October, okay? Because I want to know, because our businesses are seasonal. One thing that I noticed from looking at the data this year is that we have no second homers. This is like the first year in my entire business where I have no second home financing loans in the month of September and October. That has never happened. This is second home season. This is the second busy season of the year. Bless you, honey. Right? So that was something that I took note of. And that we don't have the Canadians here like they were here last year and the year before that. And so that's seasonal data, but it's also telling me that there's something with the market data. Right? And so I'm going, okay, there's a shift here. So here's what happens when there is a shift, and when you're comparing sales growth month over month and year to date over year to date, is that then you can make changes to your business plan, and it is a little bit reactive because you're getting data from the past, but you can make changes right away, right? So what happened with us is we just cast a wider net. Okay, so I'm like, okay guys, we don't have the second home buyers that we thought that we were gonna have. Where can we make up for these leads? Where can we make up for this stuff, right? So we started hitting up all of the leads that we got this year, right? Calling all the past clients, all the everything, more first-time home buyers, more investors, right? We really hit that database hard because we're supplementing for the business we no longer have, okay? Same thing that happened to us is we heard interest rates were gonna go up. What's the first thing you lose when rates go up as a loan officer? Refinances, right? Okay, you guys have to know this same stuff too. Right? So it's super important. So then what do? So when your sales growth looks like it's shifting, you cast a wider net of the things that you have the most traction on. Okay? So maybe 85251 becomes 85251 and the next zip code. Right? Or maybe you expand it to just all of South Scottsdale or all of Scottsdale, period, right? Like you just have to cast a wider net for the same demographic. Okay? So along with sales growth, guys, you also have to measure the number of qualified leads you get per source, okay? So one thing that I will tell you is that every single business, once you look at your spreadsheet, it'll show you trends. So it's gonna show you that you have a primary source of business, so this is where you get 60 to 70% of all of your business. It'll show you a secondary source of business, typically around 20 to 30%. And then it'll show you a supplemental one, right? So this is just a lead source that you got a couple of closings from, okay? So here's what I normally see when I look at a real estate agent's business stuff. I see number one is their database or sphere, because they categorize people that they didn't pay for in that category. And then I see next is internet leads. And then I see supplementals, typically like open house or networking or some sort of thing like a sign call, right? So I normally see those kinds of supplemental things in that area. Most businesses, you can tell, will have 3 pillars of business. So it'll be primary, secondary, or supplemental, or straight up, you will see that your business has 2 primaries, right? So you got one that was 50% and one that was 50%. Don't freak out. It happens. But I will tell you that if you're doing your business plan right, one of them will increase significantly over the next one, okay? And most of the time, when I see the 50-50, it's because people aren't marketing to their database enough. So NAR has really good statistics on real estate agent businesses, and what they normally say is that over the course of 16 years, your repeat repeat clientele will be about 20% of your business, and then referrals from past clients and your sphere of influence will make up about 42% of your business. So we're talking about 60% of your business coming from things that really have a really great ROI. So a little bit of money investment, more time investment, right? And then the rest of it is stuff you pay for, okay? Is that what you find true, Steve Castle? Yes? Same Keller Williams stuff? Okay. So here's what you have to figure out. How many of you track your leads throughout the year? Like in a CRM, know where all of your leads came from? Okay. If you don't do that, write down right now, I need to track all of my leads. So start tracking all of your leads. Here's why. One, like you don't want to lose any contacts, and you want to be able to, like in a down market, be able to pull out a list of 100 people who were interested at one point in time and start calling them, right? That's a good list. And the other thing is you want to figure out how many qualified leads per source, okay? So I've done a lot of internet marketing. I do not advertise or market anymore on Facebook, okay, for leads to the public. Okay, and the reason that I don't do that is because the ROI on that for my team was horrible. I got like 1,000 leads, and I closed 3 deals, and it took a ton of time to call them all and try to convert them, and mostly credit challenged people and all that stuff. Okay, so I got a ton of leads, right? So that was like a cha-ching, I was super happy. Then it was like 3 closed deals. I was like, okay, well, it wasn't 0, and I did make a profit, believe it or not, because Facebook marketing is super cheap. So I made a profit, so that's another one. But the time it took away from other things, I was like, not worth the time cost. Okay? So you have to figure out qualified leads per each category. Okay? Then you want to figure out like profitability, right? Did you make a profit on that? And then what was that time investment and how many team members did it take? Okay? So when I look at all my lead sources and all my stuff, I was like, okay, well, it just wasn't worth the time cost. If I focus, believe it or not, for me, Boomtown and Zillow leads have a much better time cost and conversion, but they're more expensive. So that was the thing I had to realize, right? So you'll have to track all of this too and figure out what makes the most sense for your business, okay? So a couple of things that you also need to know about tracking your leads, and this is super important. Okay, so we talked about qualified lead number, but you also need to figure out from there if it's a you problem or not. Okay, so here's the, because you might get a lot of leads and you might just not be a good converter. Okay, so here's how you qualify that, okay? And you just gotta be honest with yourself. It's like, look, you gotta start somewhere. Okay, but I'm also going to be honest with you. If you suck at calling internet leads, we're going to change the strategy, okay? All right, so your lead number, and then you're going to figure out how many of those leads picked up the phone. So that's your lead to contact number. Okay, that's a pretty good indicator that you might not be good at converting if a high percentage of them answer the phone, but you're not closing them. Okay, then your lead to agreement. Okay, so these people decided to meet with you. And then your lead to contract is another one. So these people met with you and agreed to do business with you. Okay, and then your lead to close ratio. Okay, so it's number of leads, lead to contact, lead to like meeting or agreements, and then lead to contract. Right. Okay, then you have to figure out how many of them were non-responsive, how many of them you lost. Okay, this one kills me. I hate calling a lead and finding out that they went somewhere else. You're like, darn it. And it's most of the time because we lost contact, right? The most painful leads to lose are the ones that you pre-qualified, right? So you took them out, you knew that they were a qualified buyer, and they said, oh, you know what, we're going to hold off for a second. And then you're like, okay, well, I don't want to be pushy, so I'm not going to follow up with them until like a month before they said that they were. So I'm going to hold off for another year, I'm going to sign a lease, I'm good. And so you're like, okay, a month before their lease is up, I'm going to call them. If you're really good, you're like 60 days before the lease is up. If you're really, really good, it's 90 days, right? But they bought a month later, right? They're like, you know what, actually, we drove by this open house, right? And then you're like, oh my God. So I've actually changed my strategies. I call everyone credit repair and on hold every single month. I don't care how long they told me to wait. And all I'm saying is, hey, just wanted to check to see if your situation has changed. Okay, no big deal. I will call you in a month from now. Hope you have a really great time, right? Like, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I promise you, I've saved more deals following up more frequently than I've had people who go, I told you not to call me back until 1 year. Right? That also has happened, okay? But there are fewer of those people than there are of the nicer people. And I would much rather get hung up on by one person than lose 3 deals. Yes or no? Okay, here's what will happen to you. You'll get one bad phone call and you'll never want to do it again. Okay, just remember I said that in this class. Okay, and then you also want to figure out of your lead source how many of them didn't qualify. So remember I said a Facebook advertisement, a bunch of them had bad credit, you know, they just didn't work out. I used to do radio in Spanish. Same deal, I couldn't get them to qualify, right? So I changed up my sources. Okay, so does that all make sense? Okay, there's one milestone I didn't put in here, and that's that lead to contract. Okay, so I just want you to write that down and Sammy, I'm making a note. I gotta adjust this next time. Okay, so how many of you guys have workflows? So you get a lead and you know exactly what to do every single time. Great place to start. Okay, so it looks like 3 people. Okay, so here's the deal. You get a lead. You guys are the best conversion people, right? You would say that you convert the best on anyone in your team, yes or no? Should all be yes, right? You guys care. This is your money, okay? I will tell you this. The ISA position, the lead converting position on your team should be the last one that you pass off, even though it's the least enjoyable, okay? No one's going to sell like you are because you got bills to pay, right? They got a paycheck to collect. Do you see the difference? Okay? So just know that. So here's the deal. If you are the best converter on your team, you need to know what you do that makes you the best converter on your team. And you're going to start writing a workflow. Okay? And you want a workflow generally for every part of your business, but where you're going to start is the income producing things, right? So how you convert a lead, how many times you follow up on a lead, how much you expect your partner to follow up on those leads. Okay? What you do for on-hold clients, what you do for credit repair clients, what you do for these people who are relocating in a year. What do you do for people who close on their deals? Do you know that the average homeowner stays in their property 3 to 7 years? How long should your minimum post-marketing campaign be for? 3 years, right? 3 to 7, I would think at least make it 3, right? So you should know that stuff, right? Like this should be the thing, okay? So you need to know your workflows, okay? When you have teammates, guys, you need to have workflows and then you need to have ways to hold them accountable. So I have a CRM. If you do not have a CRM, and you, how many of you have a team, I guess? Raise your hands, Laura. I can't. Okay. So a couple of you, okay? So this isn't everyone in the room, but if you start now and your plan is to have a team, right, you should invest in a CRM. And a CRM is where you put all of your leads in, and it's called a Client Relationship Manager, okay? And you can build out all these workflows. If you build out workflows, guys, there is a way to track all the unmet milestones, okay? Unmet milestones mean people aren't using your workflows, which means that what happens? It's falling through the cracks. They're not converting at the highest rate they could, right? And you have no idea if your workflows are the most efficient. So let's say this, right? So this was one thing that I changed my workflows. I have somebody on my team who's just like an outlier for conversion. And I had my IT person, I'm like, pull all of her workflows. I want to see what she's doing, how many unmet milestones she has. And I want to compare it to my worst converter on my team, right? And that's how you tell how you create efficiencies, right? Like, does this work? What can I change up? What is she doing to convert higher that maybe wasn't even in here? And I found out that she was doing a text message right after she pre-qualified somebody. And it just said, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, go ahead and call me at my direct line here. And I was like, because part of the drop-off, like, is we have an emotional sale. You realize that you get somebody committed to purchase and automatically they get non-committal on you. They like have a bunch of fear. It's the second most stressful event in a person's life. So if you can give them a lifeline, right, and then you go the extra mile to show them how much you care, right, you have that much more success in conversion. I have now added that automatically to my workflows for every single person as they hang up. An automatic text goes out with their direct line saying, thank you so much if you need anything in the interim. Okay? Right? This is how you make changes. Okay? Does everyone know how to do that? Okay? So, how do you do a workflow? You're going to do it this way. You're going to write down, I'm making a phone call. Make phone call. Then input into CRM. Then do this, right? You're going to do it 3 times. okay? Because the first time you do it, you'll forget things. Second time you do it, you're like, oh yeah, I should have had this, just like I forgot that one thing, right? You will do it. The third time you pretty much got your process, then you need to exchange it with somebody else who is doing the same thing. So if it's a business partner, it's a colleague, it's somebody on your team, you will give them your list and you will say, add to this or change this. After they've done it 3 times, you've got a workflow, okay? It does take a lot of time, but I promise you it's how you don't miss steps and you get like, oh, you're doing that? I didn't know you were doing that. Tell me a little bit more about it. Why do you do that? Does that all make sense? Okay. Yes? No? Am I losing you? Okay. All right. So next things next, guys, is this is how we qualify and get new leads. How many of you guys know how loyal your customers are and if you have good client retention? Okay, so this is actually one that I never really worked on until this past year, and it's been very frustrating for me because in my mind, I think I've done really good. I have a lot of online reviews, I send a lot of birthday cupcakes, I get a lot of social media love. I, in my mind, think I have really good client retention and customer loyalty. But when it comes down to the numbers, my database percentage is 30 or lower. We're right around 28%. It's not where I want to be, right? If the average realtor, I've been in business 16 years, I want it to be 42, right? So that's an area that I'm really concentrating on, okay? Part of that is because we're not the cheapest when it comes to refinancing. Those internet banks typically are, and so we lose some loans for that. But we should still be seeing referrals from our database better. So that just told me my post-closing campaign isn't good enough, okay? So I'm going to give you this formula for how to calculate it, right? But then I also want to talk to you about your promoter scores and how to qualify people in your database. And we're really going to talk about that because that's the key to this. So you collect the number of clients that you had prior to the year that you started, okay? So before this year, let's say I had 1,500 clients. So that's my baseline, it's 1,500 clients. Then I'm going to tally all of the clients that I've gained this year, and I'm going to minus out the number of people that did not come from repeat referrals, okay? And then I'm going to take that number, divide it by the number of new clients that I got, and then, and times it by 100. Does that make sense? So I've written out the thing for you guys so you can figure out what your CE number is, what your CN number and your CS number, right? So all of those things will help you figure it out, okay? You want to know the percentage. It's not the most important thing in the entire universe. You want to know the percentage because you want to make sure that you are in that 42% market, right? Because that's what your baseline is for the industry. If you can get above it, better, right? It says that your database campaign is awesome, okay? Now, here's how you're going to qualify your database, okay? So every database is going to have 5 different ways that you categorize people, okay? And you've heard this a variety of different ways. I used to go by A+ to D, but now I just really I call them what they really are, okay? So you're all, I do. I mean, it just got too hard to be A client, B client, C client, right? So my first ones are my raving fans, right? So these are people that you mention the word house to and they're like, oh my God, you gotta call Steve Castle. He's the man, right? They don't even know if they're looking for a real estate agent. You've just mentioned potentially buying or you showing a remodel and be like, oh, my realtor's the best, right? This happens, okay? Those are your raving fans. You want at least 10 to 25 of them in your business at all times, okay? You need them because they promote your business for free, okay? Then the next category, guys, is a promoter. So these are people who promote your business, but they have to know that somebody is looking for it, okay? So these are the people that they say, do you know a good loan officer on Facebook? And then your people go and respond to it, right? So they know there's a need and they respond to it, okay? Then you have people who are passive referral partners, okay? And this is where the attrition happens in your database, just so you know, it's these passive people. So they have to specifically be asked, do you know a good real estate agent? And if somebody has a stronger recommendation than you have, they will likely bail. Right? It's like you sold a house to so-and-so 2 years ago and you found out they listed with somebody else. Those are passive people. They're people that they were satisfied with your services. I guess this is the trick. So raving fans were, you exceeded their expectations. They've invited you to their birthday parties, their weddings. I mean, you are family, right? Like you are tight. And they also have to be an influencer in their communities to be a raving fan in your database. Because we've all met those people that like are raving fans but have no friends. Like it happens. Okay. So we have our raving fans. Our promoters, they were super happy with the service. They'll go online, they'll tell people about it, they're excited. But the passive people, you didn't piss them off, okay? They didn't have a negative transaction, right? You might have gotten them a closing gift, a home warranty, touch base with them. They're kind of weird when you call them up for a follow-up. They're like, hey. And you're like, why is my realtor calling me, right? They're the people that you gotta like sway. So the goal is with the passive person, guys, you've gotta get them to the next level. You gotta get them to be a promoter, which means that your post-closing marketing has to be awesome, okay? If it's not, that's the percentage of your database that will leave you, okay? And then the next one, guys, is the detractors. So it is much easier to get a detractor than it is a raving fan. So these are people that will spread the word about how awful your services are, right? Because they were not happy. Maybe they had a bad experience with your partner. Maybe they, something happened. A month after they moved into their house, the roof caved in, right? Stuff happens, guys. But they will go around and spread the word. You have to make sure you catch the detractors, okay? So here's what I do, okay? Look. You close a lot of loans, you're going to make some mistakes. It's just what it is. So part of it is when we categorized our database, one area where I am winning is I have an excellent I'm sorry program. This is true.
Can you send us that letter?
It is not a letter, guys. It is like a straight 12-month like follow-up plan.
Oh,
Right? So here's what happens. Every single week on Tuesdays, while they're in my getting a transaction done by my team, we do a survey on a scale of 1 to 10 on their happiness level, okay? If they give anything less than a 7, they get a call from me, right? Because there's something wrong. People are nice, they're going to try. Like a 7 is a bad score. Most of the time you should get a 10, okay? If it's really bad, they'll give you like a bad score, then you got to know you got a potential detractor right there, okay? So we call them, they get a call from me. I'll talk out whatever their issues were. And a lot of times they're just like, well, I called and it took 3 hours to call back, right? You're like, okay, right? We normally send them a thank you card for their feedback and I tell them how great they're going to be, right, the next time around. At the next week, they don't get a high score again, like we're escalating it up, right? So the goal is before they close that they're super happy. I give my raving fans and my detractors kind of like the same level of service, right? So if they're unhappy, they get a closing gift and a thing from Sammy, and she comes and we try to give them a big hug and make them love us. Okay? Then, after they close, I typically call them back a month later and say, hey, I just want to let you know because of your feedback, I've improved these processes and our team is a better team because of you. Thank you so much. Right? And then on their birthday, I call them for their birthday. And then they get all of our newsletters. The worst survey I ever got is one of my best referral partners now. Okay? Because we followed up for 12 months and let him know that his input mattered. Okay? That I was going to make changes based on what he said to me. I celebrated his birthday, right? And I kept the continuity of communication up higher than ever. Right? When we have like negative things happen in our business, the natural reaction, our survival mode kicks in. We never want to talk to those people again. Right? We don't want to pick up the phone when they call us. We don't want to get yelled at. We don't like the negativity. Like those people don't like us. Right? But here's the difference. There is a fine line between love and hate. Okay? And if they care enough to hate you, it's easy to convert them to love you. This is a fact, I promise you. You want to concentrate a lot on converting your detractors and knowing who they are, and then making sure you love on your raving fans and your promoters, okay? that B line section, those passive people, guys, it's a toss-up. Have a really good thing, but we're not going to spend all of our energy there because they're very fickle, right? They're not going to be good referral people. They may come back to you. It's, sorry, you know. I hope that you guys are better than me and all of your people are promoters. But I just spend my time in the areas where we're going to get the most traction. So does that all make sense? Okay. So guys, we've been through a lot of metrics here. This is very nerdy. If you really read everything, I tried to just do an overview of all this stuff so that you guys could read it and start implementing. So read a chapter, because it's basically a book, and implement it, and then go to the next section and implement it. Do you guys have questions for me right now that I can answer for you? Chris?
I was just gonna correct that website. It is CTEBiz, but it's CTEBiz.com,
ctebiz.com.
not CTE.
So C as in Charlie, T as in Tom, E as in Edward, E-I-Z. So B as in boy, I as in igloo, Z as in zebra, or Z. Okay. So can I ask you guys some questions since you don't have any questions for me? Right?
Actually, just,
Oh, great.
if you can't find it like that, it's actually stands for Commitment to Excellence. So you could Google that.
That actually is great.
Good job. So let me ask you guys a couple questions. Why did you guys want to come to a class about having your best year ever?
Make more money.
Make more money? Okay. Do you think that the stuff that you learned today will help you make more money? Okay. So if you found value in today's class, can I ask you guys a huge favor? Okay. Will you give my team a chance at one of your referrals? Okay. Because believe it or not, I'm not a public speaker. I'm a hungry loan officer, and our goal is to crush it next year too. And we could really use all of your help.
One of the best things when you touched on, probably hits a lot of people, is just what you just went through, those different types of people. I never call back, always afraid. I had one last one that gave great service, and I really didn't keep in touch with them, sort of. When I went, little boys was telling me to check the property and stuff. Sign was up, went in escrow, closed in 2 days. And I, of course, didn't know what to say, because they had a home group agent in there. And basically what happened was, this is the weird part, I sold that house, and then what happened was that set the tracks, and I found it a couple of days later back on the market after closed. Sold in 5 days for $60,000 more. So now I'm freaking, do I call him and tell him and ask him why this? Do I freak him out? I'm like, you know, why didn't he? And I tracked some of his last sales. He sold a condo with another agent. They're all good agents I've seen before. I must be the fickle one you're talking about. And it's kind of strange, so I've been just it's been a while now. I'm just dying to call him, but I don't want to call because I wasn't sure. You know what I mean? You don't want to put him
Here's
on the
the
spot.
deal. You just have to be candid.
That's weird because you got to know why that happened. You know, whether well, you were, you know, whatever.
So
But you
those
have
are
to be
two different
receptive.
agents?
Oh, yeah, another agent picked it up right after.
The thing is, you have to be receptive. Here's the deal, right? There's something that you did that didn't like go, oh my God, he's the guy, okay? And if you call people up and you're genuinely looking for feedback, they will give it to you.
Yeah.
If you call them up heated and you're like, hey, I saw you listed your house with somebody else,
Sure.
right? Like they're probably gonna be like, whoa, right?
Yeah, it's interesting though.
And then they might become a detractor, just realize. But if you said, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I was doing some research on my past clients. I wanted to look you up and give you a call because I was thinking about you and I saw that you listed with somebody else. Please, no worries. Everybody has to look out for their families, but I just wanted to know what it is that I did wrong because I really don't want to do that again because I would hate to lose another client that I loved as much as I did you.
But now you make one other thing that you mentioned is really, really good, is the fact that I do open houses and I get good response with these people. The problem is they're renting at such and such a time or whatever. I don't have, what you touched on, it's like, 'cause
Work
I'm
close.
like, well, I'll wait 3 months or whatever. Everything that you said has happened and I lost pretty much all of those in one particular time I had going on for everything that I didn't do what you said, because I don't want to bother them, don't want this, and you figure, well, then it's their time.
And that's really
But that's a
smart,
great-
guys.
So what you touched on was very, very helpful.
I'm so glad.
Because it happens to you, but great.
It totally happens. I mean, it happens to me. But here's the deal, guys. You know, we all don't like those aggressive people at the mall that are trying to sell us things.
Yeah.
But guess what? Those are the people who are making money. Like, because they're not afraid of bothering you, right? Their job is to sell. Look, We don't want to take advantage of people. We don't want to be pushy. We are people who are trying to help somebody find the thing that they are looking for. It's not like I'm going through the yellow pages and going, I'm going to call you and try to sell you a house, right? We know that they're interested in selling a house. We just have to do the service, right, and provide it to them. So we don't want to not be aggressive, guys. We want to be the people who are on top of the game. Yes, you are going to make some people mad. That is what happens. Okay, but we are in sales and we want to be aggressive. And look, we're all really busy. Would you say that you're not busy? Okay, we're all really busy. So the purpose of having a good CRM and a good workflow is so that you don't forget. Because chances are in 3 months, would you remember? 3 months turns into 6 months and you're like, should call them now. Hopefully they didn't buy a house. Right? Like this is all the stuff. It's just to help you be better. Okay? And you will piss off somebody, I promise you. Okay? But the more people you piss off, guys, the more sales you're gonna have. Like I promise. So just so you guys know, those people who sell life insurance, what they tell their life insurance people is that for every 10 people that you talk to, 7 of them are gonna say no. And that's a variety of different things, right? That's because they don't need life insurance right now. They already have life insurance. You know, they get it with their company, blah, blah, blah. Their life wasn't ready, okay? Then they get 3 people who said maybe. And here's what happens about people. We don't want to hurt other people's feelings, okay? So you say, oh, maybe, you know what I mean? But it's really a no. You're just planning on never answering their call when they call you back. And so only 1 out of the 3 says yes. So you have to talk to 10 people, which God knows is how many activities. Get 7 no's, 3 maybes to get to 1 yes. Okay? This isn't part of this class, but I do want to touch on this one thing. There's 4 personality types. You will qualify under one of them. I want to explain them to you, though, so that in selling and you're doing your prospecting, you understand how people react. So that way you're not offended by the people who don't pick up the phone, okay? So there are people who are questioners, okay? So they're the people that when you're in a classroom setting, they question everything. They want to ask you a bunch of questions. They're great. They will seem like they're challenging you and that they don't like what you have to say. Here's how you win over a questioner. You answer all of their questions. These are going to be your engineers, your attorneys, your doctors. These are people who need facts to make decisions. Now, here's the quickest way to lose a questioner. Skim over the answer and say, no, this is the right choice. This happened in my office last week. Somebody wanted to go over down payment assistance even though rates are more than 1% higher than the program that we qualified them on, and they told us very specifically they wanted to be in this payment. Okay. My salesperson said, no, this is the best program, this is the payment that you wanted, blah, 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 right? We try to go back to what they said. But he asked a question. You answer all of your questions. It doesn't matter if it's going the opposite direction of what they said. Okay? Good salespeople will know that, right? A questioner has to get all of his questions answered. He almost fired us until I picked up the phone and answered his questions for 47 minutes. Okay? Right? That's what happened. Okay, then you have your rejectors. Okay? Those are the know-it-alls. Okay? Those people, they know everything. They have an answer for everything. They're going to say no before they say yes. They're the easiest group to sell to. And here's how you do it. You say, well, I have this house, but you probably wouldn't want to see it because it's over here and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? It's 3 bedrooms and not 3.5 bedrooms and blah, blah, blah. Like, you probably want to see it. And then they want to see it, right? Because you said no, right? Well, the seller, they're probably not going to take that. You got to say no before you say yes. If you say, this is what they're going to do, this is what they're going to say, they get frustrated. They've got a challenge. It's their personality type. Just go with it. Okay? Then you have people who are obligers. They will literally do everything you say you do. Okay? These are your passive people in your database. They're the people that buy the house from the open house person because they're the ones that are selling it, so sign here. Okay? They do what they say they're told to do. It's just what it is. Okay? We love those clients, though, because when they walk into our open house, it's easy. Yes, right? Then you have people, and this is my least favorite group of people, but this is the person that you fall under and they just rip your soul out because you think you had a connection. But there are people who appear to oblige. right? You've had a great conversation, your kids go to the same elementary school, you've bonded, you're like, I got that deal in the bag, and then they never pick up another one of your phone calls.
Yep.
Those people are non-confrontational, they're non-committal. So what happens is they appear to oblige, but they're really a questioner, and you didn't spend enough time asking them the questions that they had. Okay, does that make sense? So those are 4 personality types. When you're prospecting, you should qualify them under those categories over the traditional DISC, right? You should find out their conversion style. Okay, DISC is like dominant, influencer, stability, and C, which is like compliant, right? So you could do that, or you could just figure out how to sell them. Right, cool. Alrighty guys, I know this is a lot, tons of info. I'm super excited. You guys were the awesome first class for me to come back to. I'm here to answer any and all questions, so you guys are adjourned. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Once you're done with
Yep.
somebody else, yes.
Yep.